Hello, everyone. This is Andrew, the Archon philosopher. Welcome in. We're going to be talking radical philosophy to the radical philosopher in all of us. This title is The Origin of the Universe, follows on from yesterday's video of the structure of the universe. Now, I've mentioned this in the first two videos of this Direction 1 series, and this is radical, and let's get into it. The core of what happened to give this insight into the origin of the universe is this 1999 delayed choice quantum eraser experiment. Looks pretty complex, but really all we want to notice is D0, which is the structural feature which is revealed in this experiment, which contains information about choices that were delayed, and the choices are D1, 2, 3, 4. And in this way, we can randomize what's going to happen in the future, but we have information about it in the D0 position. And so this metaphysics suggests that there is a type of sentient creature who can access this structural feature, has different cognitive structures, and is able to access this and look into the future. And at this point, there is no universe, but it looks into the future where there is a universe and then decides it wants that universe and collapses the universal wave function of that universe. So this is radical, certainly, and it has some implications in how this happened. But what should be noted is that we can imagine this sentient creature, who maybe we'll take Plato's term and call it the demiurge, when we have a species and imagines itself sitting around a dinner table. And so there's a little picture of a dinner table there, and it imagines this happening. Of course, at this point, at D0, this is not reality. The food has no taste, there's no warmth, there's nothing. There's just information, like you're reading from a book. And in collapsing the universal wave function, it then finds itself sitting around the table where the food has taste, it's warm, and everything thereby has a history. So what happens when you collapse a universal wave function, or the original one, the originary one, is that the laws of physical nature, talked about yesterday and before, cascade in order to allow that universe to be. So this process would be called a teleological process. So teleological just means that the end, and the end is the actual universe, draws the causal sequence towards it. So whatever has to happen to make that end happen is going to happen. And what we see in the universe is designed this way. This seems to be a base feature of this universe, and physicists call it the principle of least action. This is teleological. Particles want to take the path that is the least action. Well, how does it know what it is at the end when it starts? Well, see, this is the end pulling the causal sequence towards it. And this universe is designed this way, and happened this way as the laws of physical nature cascaded out, leaving us with the world that we live in, with all the rules and that it has. And let's take a look at the next slide here. So what's going to happen is that this is the formula for least action. I'm putting it up here. We have actual and potential. I think this is energy or something. I'm just taking the keywords out. And that the teleological end uses up the potential. So the potential was in that location D0. That structural feature contained the information. That was the potential. And then it was used up, and used up most efficiently, which is the cascading of the laws of physical nature to provide the structure to allow that image of one member of the demiurgic species having dinner or something, when that was the the image. And we can take an analogy of a painter. So we have a painter, wakes up in the morning, paints a tree. Well, that tree can't exist unless it comes from a seed, right? But in the painting, there was no seed. It didn't grow from the seed. It was just the painting of the tree. But the tree has to have a history, so it came from a seed because that's where trees come from. But we're not talking about this when we talk about a collapse of a universal wave function. What we're talking about is moving from information into reality. And so what we see in the double slit experiment is that we move from a potential to an actual, and that it takes probably the least action. And we are prevented from doing this in this experiment or in life with anything but the smallest of particles because of the irreversibility constraint. If there's information available about something, you can't just recollapse it. So that's why on the macro scale, this feature of our universe, which is to collapse wave functions, is hidden from us. We can only do it in the very small. But if we could, which thankfully we can't, and we cannot, otherwise the world would be unstable, but if we could collapse on the macro level, we could change any group of particles into any other group of particles. But luckily, the universe wants stability. And so we cannot recollapse something that's already been collapsed on the macro. We can put a small particle into superposition and then mess with it a bit. It's like a pinpoint that we can see this. But if we could do it on the macro, this is what happened. There was no conflicting information from that location D0. The palette was wide open for this member of the demiurgic species to collapse this originary universal wave function. It's quite an idea, but one of the implications of this, of course, is that the physical beginning of the universe occurred in the historical middle of the universe. Obviously, the idea of this member of the demiurgic species had to be at least an adult or semi-adult to have the idea of sitting around dinner or whatever the idea was, had to have language, had to have information, and had to be alive, so it had to collapse a universal wave function where all of these conditions were true. So whatever situation it found itself in, it was a sustainable situation with a sustainable species and a sustainable community, and just history would cascade backwards. The causal trail would go backwards, but the causal trail is not real. Today we know history is not real. It doesn't exist. It's an idea. So the painting, as it were, of the originary collapse was detailed, but only so detailed because the causal trail would cascade outward. The seed would be assumed to make the tree, in other words. And so what we get is an artisan of the physical world. That's what Plato called the demiurge. I'm assuming it's a species. Plato didn't mention it was a god like Zeus or Aphrodite. It's not a god. It's something else, and I'm assuming it's a species. And we'll see once we get into direction 2 how this has some import to our world, because we seem to interact with non-human sentient creatures. Maybe one of them is of this species. And this painting that was painted of reality then became the reality, and history cascaded backwards, but only in ideas. The situation was well formed, and we'll find out how humans came about later, but we are not involved in this. This is not a human-centric situation. I'm just saying that I found no evidence in any historical document that humans were responsible for this type of action. So this is a quick but sort of radical summation of a radical metaphysics. It's not magical. We have experimental evidence of the delayed choice and the double slit experiments. This is given, both little pinpoints that point to something that's hidden from us and that is prevented. We cannot collapse wave functions on the macro. They're already set. We have to have stability. So this is just hidden from us for good reason. If we could do it, it would be chaos. I don't think any sentient creature in this universe can do it. Not of the present, maybe of the future, and that's one of the issues that we'll discuss in direction 2. Anyway, hope this wasn't too much for people. It certainly came to me in a very interesting way. I think that the delayed choice experiment, that this experiment here solved the bootstrapping problem of philosophy, where we're able to have a reciprocity, as it were, of having D0 containing information of a potential reality, and that we have a mechanism to use information to collapse wave functions. Anyway, I'm hoping that this is where we are. We can deal with this. This is dealable with, and we can then know who we are, and then we will know what to do. So I'm going to end the program now. Any questions, please let me know. Thanks for dropping in, and thanks for the support of this channel.